Hey guys, how are you doing?
Awesome.
Tired.
Awesome.
It's a long
Hey,
day.
so we're gonna talk about what happened at the Trish Lambeck trial. And anybody watching, just right before this, I was saying to Bill and Louisa, I think it's good to keep this short and focused on just what was really a travesty. And I think that you guys, we haven't talked since it, but I think that you guys are potentially more emotional about it than I am. I'm more used. I don't know that I'm more used. I'm just more accepting of some of this stuff. So here's the. I have like a couple key takeaways. I have two video clips that I cut out of. So the whole thing is recorded. I've put the recording out and linked on my Facebook page, so you can watch the whole trial if you want to. There's not a verdict. The judge took it under advisement, but But here's the three takeaways that I had that made no sense. Like the first one makes no sense whatsoever, is that the prosecutor, Tyler Cantrell, did not call eyewitnesses to the event. So imagine this. The prosecutor, I have to say this, like, I might want to say it 3 times because it's so unbelievable. A prosecutor does not call eyewitnesses to a crime. I'm going to say that one more time. The prosecutor does not call eyewitnesses to a crime. Okay.
Criminal trial. Criminal trial.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so that's just something, and we'll talk about that more. And one of the eyewitnesses was there, ready to testify, and because I am the way I am, they had notes of what they were going to testify, and I'm just going to keep them, but they're consistent with what they told me. They had like their notes, and I said, well, give me a copy of them so I'll be able to say, I had what you said you were going to testify. I know it existed at the trial, right? You didn't make it up later. You'll write it down later. So not calling the eyewitnesses, Tyler Cantrell. The second thing is that I had as a takeaway.
Chris, I think you need to make sure everybody understands this is the Adams County.
We're going to come back. Then I'm going to open it up. I'll have my takeaways, and then I'll open up to you guys to just go, okay? The second thing, and you might not agree with one of my takeaways, because one of my takeaways, these are the first time these guys are hearing, is that I don't believe that this prosecutor did anything to prepare witnesses. Okay, didn't even know that one of his witnesses was there. An eyewitness apparently got confused about. And then the third thing is, and this is the one you might not like, guys, is that we've got to be smarter as outsiders. Tina should have been all over this. Okay, to be honest with you, that making sure counsel at the beginning of the trial that she knew who exactly are you going to call. You cannot take anything for granted. You cannot take anything for granted. So those were my takeaways. Well, let me play a video clip first. Here, I want to play this first video clip, and then I am going to let you guys just open up, and then you can hear the rest of the time, as far as I'm concerned. So the first video clip, what happened was Tammy Brinkman would have been the star eyewitness, not friends with Louisa, not friends with Tina, and she would have been the star eyewitness. She was there. That's whose notes I have here of what, so I can confirm what they thought they were going to testify. I'm about a 10 degree black belt Ronald Reagan trust but verify guy. And so what effectively happened is she never gets called, but Scott Croswell kind of testifies like he was her, making representations about what she would testify. Okay. But she never actually testifies. And what Scott Croswell said is not what she would have testified. But let me play this first clip that I clipped out, just 2 quick clips. I've sped this up to 1.5 times the speed, so you can still hear it fine, but if it seems a little fast, it is a little fast. Okay, here we go.
And you have me. So
you recall Tammy Brinkman trying to get you to leave that conflict before you were allegedly headbutted? You recall her trying to get you to back off and leave because you were so angry and so aggressive?
You understand the question?
I don't understand. I mean, if I answer
Okay, hold on, please. Could you rephrase the question,
Sure.
please?
Do you recall Tammy Brinkman asking you to walk away from the desk where the votes were being counted before you were allegedly headbutted? You recall her asking you to do that?
the first minute I recall Tammy was when I heard her talking to me from my left side after I was headbutted, and I looked at her and she said, "We have to separate you." And I then realized Tammy was talking to me, and I turned around and took one step forward, and then I was confronted by Denise Askew, screaming at me, telling me, "Shut up, sit down, and not write emails." So it's a lot.
Well, if Trish Lambeck would say, if she were to say, pardon me, if Tammy Brinkman were to say that Tina was leaning over the table in front of Trish Lambeck's face, yelling at her, would that be accurate, or would that be a lie if she would say that?
You know, I really can't say what Tammy witnessed. That would be hearsay, right?
Right.
What I asked you was, if Tammy Brinkman would say that when you were at the table, you were leaning over the table, yelling at Trish Lambeck, would that be true or not?
I don't believe I was yelling. I don't generally yell, and my voice is better than it's been in a long time, but I am not able to scream.
Okay, so that was the first clip. Okay, so that was the that was when when effectively he testified like he was
Mr. Queen,
I'm gonna stop this. He testified like he was what Tammy Brinkman would have said or what she did say, but she never testified. And I don't think she would have testified what he said. So he effectively created this impression that Tammy Brinkman was testifying that she tried to get Tina to calm down and back off prior to her getting headbutted. And so we'll come back to that. Now, I'm going to play the second clip, which this is in the closing. And so in the closing, then Scott Croswell says, you know, you didn't have any eyewitnesses to any of this stuff. Didn't have any eyewitnesses when there were multiple eyewitnesses that were never called, you know, by this Tyler Cantrell guy. Okay. And so wait till you hear what Tyler Cantrell, I'm going to play it and then you'll hear what Tyler, if I might repeat what Tyler Cantrell says.
Both Mr. Queen and Ms. Coleman, who are the two buddies, the two friends, as they tell you, the partners in politics, I'll call them. They want to describe how Ms. Lambeck was disrupted at this meeting. Did they have one witness from that meeting, the 200 people there?
One witness.
Describe her as disrupted. There are 3 other people sitting at the table when Ms. Lambeck, by way of allegation, launches herself across the table and headbutts Ms. Coleman. Where are those people? Where are they? One of us here in the courtroom today, Cam Brinkman, who
By the way, he said 3 other people sitting at the table. Tina consistently said she wasn't sure who was sitting at the table and who was standing, but let's keep going.
subpoenaed by the state, who said,
There's no
subpoenas, it's false.
well,
Take it in the proper context, but please continue.
well, she's certainly listed as a witness under discovery. Who was here? Who excused herself when the when we moved for separation of witnesses? I mean, where are any of those 3 witnesses? I have to assume, and of course the officer was careful to tell you, he interviewed everybody. And based upon his interview, he knows exactly what happened. Well, if he interviewed all these people and he knows exactly what happened, where are all these people that he interviewed that causes him to know exactly what happened? I don't have to call those witnesses, as you know, and as the prosecutor knows, I don't have to call those witnesses to establish my client's innocence. The prosecution has to call those witnesses to establish my client's guilt, if in fact those witnesses can establish my client's guilt.
So during the thing, and then I'm finally going to shut up. If you couldn't hear it there, and you guys, I was actually out of the room when this happened, you know, but it got all's recorded, so I could watch the recording too, and I was in and out. But the Tyler Cantrell character says something to the effect of, "Well, I didn't subpoena any witnesses," which also makes absolutely no sense. And Scott Croswell is the one saying, "Well, Tammy, you had witnesses here, and they went out in the hall when we separation of witnesses." If people don't understand what that means, is when a trial's going on, people who have not yet testified have to not be in the room so they don't hear what each people testify. And so Tammy Brinkman was out in the hall the whole time because when they said separation of witnesses, Tammy Brinkman went out in the hall because she was a witness and she had a subpoena and she never got called. And I can't even begin to describe those things. So I said my 3 takeaways is what a prosecutor that doesn't call eyewitnesses, does not prep witnesses, and to be frank, my third one that's critical on Tina a little bit is you got to know you can't trust these people. You got to know. I mean, I've told her 100 times the whole thing's going to be rigged, and you got to not trust these people. And she should have been going over with him who exactly are you going to call and in what order in this case. But all right, now let me go back to this. I'm even going to put you two guys up here. Okay. So who wants to go first?
Bill, you can go.
Louisa, I'm going to be louder. So you want me to go first? Because
Sure.
I mean, it smells like Mark DeColby was involved in this somehow. Scott Croswell, Mark, they're all tied together, all the attorneys down in Batavia. And this prosecutor, when I walked outside, he gets in a car with a woman driving him with some loud exhaust that you would think a 15, 16-year-old kid's driving with the custom exhaust, loud. I don't even know if the guy has a driver's license because he didn't drive. He had a woman sitting in his car for almost 2 hours. It speaks about who was appointed. I think they just went on the street, got some heroin addict, threw a Cracker Jack diploma on there and brought him in, because who in their right mind would sit there like a bump on the log, quiet, while Scott Croswell is calling him out for not calling witnesses, and he has a witness in a criminal trial.
At that point, it was too late to call witnesses. So they were in closing at the time that came up.
But hold on. Yeah, he's in closing, but here's the kicker. You didn't play this in the clip. Scott Croswell said all this, and at one point, Cantrell objected during the closing argument, which is kind of irregular to object during a opening or closing argument. Usually, you don't get objections. But not only did he not call Tammy, he on record said, "Your Honor, Mr. Croswell is wrong. We did not subpoena anyone." Which goes
to the point again. I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's this whole point of forget about everything else. What kind of car he drives, who drove him, whatever, heroin, even if he's on heroin, okay? A prosecutor who does not call any of the eyewitnesses to the crime. How can that be? You don't have to go any further than that.
Because he doesn't. The whole point is the guy doesn't know what he's doing. I at one point got yelled at by the. I got yelled at by the sheriff's deputy in the courtroom. You weren't there because you were at the commissioner's meeting, because I was yelling objection, and she's like, "Don't," because I couldn't stand to watch Louisa get railroaded by Scott Croswell and no objections at all.
I think we have to assume
he kept repeating the same.
I think we have to assume that Tyler Cantrell is at least a level 101 competent prosecutor, and if he's too dumb to know to call the eyewitnesses, then he can tell us that. He should tell us, you know what?
If he's a real prosecutor,
I don't know to call my own eyewitnesses during a criminal trial.
If he's a real prosecutor, then I'm going to go tomorrow and take the bar exam.
No, I don't. See, here's Bill. I apologize for keeping interrupting. I think just labeling him as a dumbass is a mistake. This was intentional. This was not, and by the way, the best setups is where we walk away thinking the person's just dumb. Okay? Those are some of the best crooks going. And so if Tyler Cantrell would like to go on the record and inform us that, nope, it's just that he's so fucking stupid, he doesn't know to call or subpoena eyewitnesses. He doesn't even know that he did subpoena eyewitnesses and they were there. Then he should tell us that, because otherwise I got to go on the assumption this was intentional. Tyler Cantrell intentionally threw this case by not calling his own eyewitnesses. All right, Louisa, what do you got to say?
I don't know why anyone is surprised. Yeah. We've been talking to Tyler Cantrell since May and asking Tyler, hey, when are we going to talk about this? When are you going to subpoena other witnesses? There were other witnesses that witnessed her being agitated, before the vote took place, and he said, oh, no, that's not important. That's not important. June, we were subpoenaed, all of us. We were subpoenaed for June's court date on the 23rd of June, and that got continued. The second hearing was in September. We were all subpoenaed for that, and that got continued. And then this time round, interesting enough, I called Tyler 2 weeks ago, and I said, listen, are we having this on the 23rd of October? Because I have doctor's appointments I can't change. I need to know. I said, we haven't been subpoenaed. And he said, you haven't been subpoenaed? Well, that's weird because I sent it out. I said, well, we haven't been subpoenaed. Now, moving forward to today, and yesterday I got a phone call from a lady by the name of Diana, and she tells me on the phone that the only people that needed to be there because subpoenas did not go out was myself and Tina Tolan. And I said, excuse me? I said, what about the witness that witnessed the assault? Tammy Brinkman, April Sun. She says, no, Tyler doesn't feel the need for them to be there. Only the two of you need to be there.
Therefore, I
And
want
I
to
said,
just say
okay.
the same thing like a broken record over and over again. This was intentional to throw the case.
Absolutely. From the
This was
beginning.
intentional to throw the case.
I want to say something. I want to say something else. So I just quickly did a search on Tyler. Tyler actually is an attorney at Young and Caldwell LLC in Union, Ohio, West Union, Ohio, which is Tyler E. Cantrell. His email, phone numbers, all that. His newest member of our firm, Tyler, was born and raised in Adams County, is a graduate from West Union High School. He then went on to Shawnee State University and obtained his JD from University of Dayton School of Law in 2010. So it looks like he works for a private law firm.
Bill, that's very common in small counties because they don't have enough cases. So the people that can be part-time. We had Don White was not a full-time prosecutor in Clermont County.
He's a DUI attorney.
So
maybe he has a DUI. That's why he doesn't have a driver's license.
I
would love to know why. Go on.
Look, we already knew from the beginning that we were going to lose on this one. When they announced that Scott Croswell was the attorney, come on, everybody knows that Scott Croswell is known for getting off the guilty. So what was anyone thinking, that we were really going to win this? Please, you know what? I don't appreciate Mr. Scott Croswell trying to, have his little finger around me and trying to intimidate me in court when his character of who he is.
Scott Croswell did what he was supposed to do. Okay. To be frank, the parts that I wasn't there that I watched then, the Scott Croswell's points were good. There was no eyewitness to the actual assault taking place, so it became a she said, she said. Now, do I believe that in the back room, Scott Croswell would have a wink and a nod potential agreement with somebody? Don't call your eyewitnesses, so that happens. Well, I know that Scott Croswell loves to lie for people. He lied for Jesse Gramick. He has no problem lying for people. He has no problem doing whatever it takes to do. That's why people hire Scott Croswell, because he will do whatever it takes to get them off. But it gets pretty easy when the prosecutor doesn't call the eyewitnesses.
And he definitely taught his client to lie, because first of all, she kept saying that I repeated over and over again that I didn't have anyone to put in there. Then she said Tina Tolan repeated over and over again. But then she said Judy Kasika was sitting next to her. Judy Kasika wasn't even at the meeting that night. So the woman doesn't even know. In actual fact, Patricia Lambeck, if you're watching, I'm pretty disgusted that you're almost 70 years old and you acted the way you did.
So I like the guy that did Dilbert, Scott Adams. Dilbert. I know you're from South Africa, Louisa, so maybe
I do. I'm sorry. I'm very tired.
But Dilbert, yes. I remember a tweet of his after the 2020 election was stolen.
Yeah.
In which he said, all we need, the moment a legal observer was blocked from a counting room, that is all we needed to invalidate the election. And part of his point was all this other stuff, got to be all these other things, the Germans, the servers, all this kind of stuff. All we needed was as soon as they blocked legal observers from counting rooms, the election was invalid. And that's why I want to say, I think there's about 100, there's probably a dozen other things that are true that you're saying, that Bill's saying. But this was a setup that Tyler Cantrell did not call his own eyewitnesses. That guarantees that the person is getting off, and there is no way that a prosecutor does not know that you need to call your eyewitnesses to the actual crime to get beyond a reasonable doubt that the act was intentional.
Do you know what
And-
was pathetic? Was his response when I asked him when we came out, and I said, look, yeah, we are. Scott Croswell just made his closing argument that we had no witnesses. We've been talking about this. His answer to me was, well, I knew he was going to do that. That is why I intentionally left them out. Really? I call it bullshit, okay? No, it was a fix.
I do not
And it
understand what you
was
just said.
when I asked Cantrell, why did we not bring the witnesses? Why didn't he take Tammy Brinkman inside?
Yeah, you asked him. What did he say? I didn't understand the what he said part.
He said that he knew that Scott Croswell was going to use that. Therefore, that's why he didn't bring in the witnesses. He
So
only
he said,
thought,
I can't believe that you're saying that he said, okay, that Scott Croswell was going to make the point that you didn't have eyewitnesses, and that's the reason why he didn't have eyewitnesses?
that's exactly what he said.
Okay. I just want to, I know I'm being a broken record here, but I think it's very important that we all, because this is what we got to do better as outsiders, grassroots, stick on just the one thing. The fact that you had a prosecuting attorney that did not call his own eyewitnesses is just cannot be explained other than abject corruption. Now, if Tyler Cantrell, or what's the name of the prosecutor for Adams County?
I don't know.
His name is Aaron Haslem, because I'm
right?
sending
He was
him an email
involved in
right
some
now.
deal where he didn't live there and all this kind of crap. Okay. So Aaron Haslem, yeah, why don't you explain to us why you have a assistant prosecutor in your office that does not call eyewitnesses, not one eyewitness. He didn't call one eyewitness to a crime. What kind of record do you have establishing beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody is guilty without presenting a single eyewitness? Like, it's when you have multiple that you could have called. There's probably more that he could have called than the people that you mentioned, April Sloan, Tammy Brinkman. And I just want to say too, because, and you can be a witness, you were a witness to this, Louisa, is out in the parking lot, because I wasn't there when the closing happened, and then I saw you guys out in the parking lot. And I asked Tammy to explain exactly what you were prepared to testify to. And then Louisa will remember she started talking, and I got in her face telling her, quit talking, let Tammy talk without any interruption from any of us, what she was going to testify. And the one thing that was the black and white thing was that it was absolutely an intentional act. It was absolutely an intentional act. There was no question that it was an intentional thought action to get it wasn't an accident, it wasn't a this, it wasn't a that, and all this other stuff that the other things that I paid the clip of that Croswell said, the part of her testimony that would have blown it away is that it was absolutely an intentional act on her end, because particularly Tammy's not a friend of yours, he's not a friend of Tina's. I mean, she's not really a friend of mine. I mean, so I give Tammy a lot of shit, because I don't think that she doesn't push back, get her privately. She's pushing it back against the evil regime, but then she doesn't do a lot. But, she was gracious enough to, in the parking lot, explain what she would have testified. She was upset. And then I asked her, just for me, to give me a copy of her notes, so that if anybody said after the fact she changed her story or anything, at least she had notes of what she was prepared to testify, ready to go. And I have a setup. What else do you guys have to add?
We want to be transparent. This is more than transparent on the corruption that is going on in Clermont County. They themselves were transparent on what is going on.
But the number one flaw here, and I know Tina's listening, so I don't want her to get mad at me, is we have got to be smarter than this. Tina, I love you, but this is on you to a big degree. You need to be more, you can't just assume things are going to happen. And you were up on the stand talking about being a policeman and stuff like that, then you need eyewitness testimony to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody was guilty of something. You need eyewitness testimony or some other evidence. Like, I guess my fingerprints are on the gun or something, or can I have the, but with nothing but, because the only witnesses were Louisa, you, and you didn't actually see the headbutt, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. So there was no witness that actually saw the headbutt. Tammy Brinkman would have been that witness. I think I'm not a friend of mine, but I think April Sloan would have potentially been that same story. But she wasn't there, but she was another one of the direct witnesses to the headbutt itself. So I'm sorry for taking up so much time, guys, but I just want us to keep, it's just sad because it's so unfair. It's so ridiculous. And although I'm Tina, and although I'm giving you some crap, it's the reason you shouldn't have to be on top of it. The prosecutor should be on top of it, but we have to assume that most of the time, and especially when Mark DeColvey is involved, it's fucking crooked. It is crooked as hell. And I think you put, I think I saw Tina comment about, Clermont County recused themselves. Don't believe that when a prosecutor recuses themselves and goes and gets another prosecutor, they've recused themselves. They go get a forum shop prosecutor that delivers the predetermined outcome that the local prosecutor wants. And I'm sure what Mark DeColvey wants, because he's buds with Jeff Corcoran, is Trish Lambeck to walk. So what a good way to do that. Don't effing call your own eyewitnesses.
So here's where I'm at with this, because we can sit here and gripe about this all day. To me, it's disheartening to see the justice system in Clermont County fall apart, because it's disgusting. And this all started to get even worse. It was already heading this direction, but now since Mark has taken over under his watch, whether it's all him or not him, I don't care. Mark, you're the elected prosecutor. You're responsible for it. You don't answer my phone calls because you're angry, because you don't want to know, you don't want to hear what I have to say, because it's true. These things are happening under your watch. It's your responsibility, period. So what I have found out about this prosecutor, Aaron Haslam, he was appointed by the Adams County Commissioners a few years back. And I have emailed, and you both are on the email, Luis and Chris. I've emailed the three commissioners. I've put Adam on it, or I'm sorry, Aaron.
Why don't we go to a commissioner meeting there and we'll talk about this?
We should. I'm down.
It's absolutely. By the way, we can maybe stop by Steve Carraway's crooked fucking house. Steve Carraway, one of the ringleaders for the householder crooked money operation, was Steve Carraway, a former commissioner from Adams County.
Right. Yep. So I think there should be a recommendation for Tyler. Tyler lied on the record. We can go on and say anything we want about he didn't call the witnesses. Yeah, that's completely wrong. But where he crossed the line is he objected and lied and told the judge, Your Honor, quote, Your Honor, I did not send any subpoenas for this trial. He said those words under oath on record. On video.
Well, hold on. First off, lawyers don't take oaths. Okay. But my
well, you're
the
the
point
officer
is,
of the
and
court.
Technically he didn't. That's why I asked you, Louisa, did you have a subpoena that had today's date on it?
No.
Right. So nobody had a subpoena that had
on
today's date on it.
Right. But he lied to me on the phone.
No, she had one from 6/23, and she had kept track of when it kept getting rescheduled, when it was getting rescheduled. This was intentional. I don't think we can get past this was an intentional act on his part.
Yeah.
I want to hit a couple of these comments here, but
it didn't come from him.
I want to go.
But Louisa, did you see the date on Tammy's subpoena? Because I looked at it and I didn't notice it.
6/23, I saw it.
You saw it?
Tammy had written in different dates when it was getting rescheduled because she was being diligent and keeping track of when it was. So Kyle asked, why do we have a prosecutor from another county? Because DeColvey theoretically recused himself, but in the mix, because there's nobody that he had a statutory client relationship with in this, but he recused himself because he's on the committee, and it makes it a lot cleaner when you're going to throw a trial to recuse yourself.
Exactly. I was going to say recused himself, because recusing yourself gives you plausible deniability.
Yeah, and this one, shouldn't the judge? No, the judge's job isn't to be the prosecutor. It's the prosecutor's job. And this is what everybody needs to understand. If you get criminally, something by somebody, the prosecutor's not quote unquote your lawyer. Okay, they're the state's lawyer. And what they do or don't do is that's what the miscarriage is. And but this is so fundamental. You don't call your own eyewitnesses. That's intentional. And by the way, Scott Croswell, let's just point this out. Scott Croswell pointed out that he pointed out correctly that he had 3 people on his witness list, right? Scott Croswell pointed that out to Tyler Cantrell. And then Tyler Cantrell, that's when he comes out like, I didn't subpoena people. But Croswell knew that there were witnesses. And so Croswell then used it to say basically, the fact is, then Croswell used it to basically say that I assume that he didn't call his witnesses because they weren't good witnesses, right? It creates the impression when Croswell's up there saying he had 3 witnesses on his list, but he didn't call any of them. That must mean they're basically bad witnesses. So he didn't call them because they would not have supported the story. Now, how that all got done in the back room or not,
I've never seen a criminal
Croswell said
trial.
and did what he's paid to do.
I've never seen a criminal trial where witnesses weren't called. Eyewitnesses with no connection to the victim. Like Trish or Tammy doesn't have any friendship with Tina. Tammy would have been a creditable witness because what Croswell did is he discredited Louisa by portraying her as a friend that would do anything to stick up for and create chaos. That was his entire argument, is that Louisa and Tina are disruptors and that they intensify things and they are not victims, that they are actually the aggressor. But Tammy, as a witness, is not in that group. She's not friends with Tina. It would have been a clean link and honestly would have changed the outcome. This thing's going to go not guilty. Sorry.
Frankly, even if Tammy were their friends, the point is he never called anybody that witnessed the actual headbutt.
But you know what? This is not on Cantrell, all on Cantrell, okay?
Who else would it be on?
This is also on his boss, because 3 weeks ago, Tina Tolan and I bumped into, what is his name? I don't know what his name is. The prosecutor of Brown County. No, Adams County. Sorry. What is his name, Bill? You just said his name.
Am I Aaron Haslam?
Haslam.
Yes, Haslam. That's it. We actually bumped into him at Adam Bird's fundraiser, and we had a discussion with him about this case.
We should go to Adam Haslam's house and not ring his doorbell. There's nothing illegal about that. And ask him about this.
But what I'm saying is, he said, because we told him, Tina spoke to Scott Croswell, had a consultation with him, then Patricia Lambeck retained him. We told him all these things. I said, we should have other witnesses, and he hasn't investigated this case. And he said, I am going to look into it, and I will personally call you tomorrow.
Let's be very clear. I'm going to be the broken record. This was intentional.
Of course,
everybody needs to remember that in the political world, when people fuck you intentionally, the best ones, you don't know that they look dumb or they do whatever. But you get what I'm saying? It's like they're not going to say like, screw you, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to look into it. I'll make sure it gets done right. And then this was intentional. There's no, let Tyler Haslam or Cantrell explain that this was incompetence, mental disability, heroin addiction, whatever reason. But to not call a single person who witnessed the criminal act is intentional.
And you know what? I feel sorry for people that end up in the court system now. I really do. Because this is not just here. This is happening everywhere. The innocent people are being hung. And the people that are the assailants, just like Patricia Lambeck, she testified that she called me a bitch, that she did bump her head. Okay, so calling someone a bitch is not a form of assault? Of course it is.
It's not.
It's not?
Yeah, we
Verbal
cannot get
assault?
like we get. So I just want to use my Scott Adams thing. I'm sorry if you guys get mad at me. We don't need to focus on anything else, but that the prosecutor did not call a single eyewitness to the criminal act when he had ample numbers of people he could have called that were eyewitnesses of the criminal act. Okay? And so how can you possibly win a case beyond a reasonable doubt when you intentionally don't call your own eyewitnesses. That means you intentionally are throwing the case. And I would like to have Tyler Cantrell or Scott Haslam or Adams County prosecutor or Steve Caraway or whoever the hell explain to me just on that. How do you ever, why don't we get, what that would be like, there's cases that don't have witnesses but would have physical evidence. It's like, oh, we're going to leave out the fingerprinted gun and the this cannot be anything other than intentional. And they would want us to think, well, maybe he's just a dumbass on heroin, and that's why because that becomes a rationalization that this is okay. Like it happened.
I say you're right. I think you should reply to all the email I sent and ask that simple question. Bring it back down to the one simple thing. I want to know. It's in your inbox. All you gotta do is reply to all the email addresses are on there.
Okay.
I want to know too. That's why I asked him afterwards. And when he answered me that he knew that Scott Croswell was going to testify to that under his closing argument, he just on himself thought that myself and Tina Tolan were the only witnesses that there needed to be. And I said to him, but I wasn't a witness to the assault. I said, Tammy Brinkman witnessed the assault.
So one of the lessons for us and for everybody is do not trust anybody. As Bill and Louisa know, this is my mentality, is I don't trust anybody. I trust Jesus. I touch my wife. I trust Tilly the dog. And everybody else I'm trusting to verify.
You didn't trust Tilly the dog to not go in the
I trust Tilly the dog 10 times more than Mark DeColby. And sometimes Tilly the dog pees in the house. So
your dog might be smarter than Mark DeColby.
And I don't know the rules, but whenever you are, and I'm not a lawyer because they come after me, they constantly look for ways to come after me. But remember, you can have a victim advocate. Okay. So find the smartest, sharpest person, doesn't have to be a lawyer, and make sure that you exercise your Marcy's Law right to a victim advocate. Because I know had I been Tina's victim advocate, she probably would have still gotten screwed, to be honest. So you don't have to feel bad, Tina. But this might not have happened because I would have been upping up these people's asses and you need somebody like that. And a victim advocate does not need to be a lawyer under Marcy's Law. But I think you could also, it's not happened to me. Maybe I'll find out someday. But even if you are a victim, you could have your own lawyer. They're not the prosecutor, but just get somebody involved, especially in Clermont County. And if it involves anybody who's connected with the political system, assume you're going to get fucked. Okay. They could shoot you. I used to say David Ubel could shoot me in the street and he would get off.
So one other thing I want to bring up is, so when we were in the hallway, Jeff Corcoran was unlocked. They unlocked courtroom 2. It was locked there, and there's nothing on the docket. It was completely empty today. Jeff entered the courtroom empty, and then we tried to open the door and it was locked back. You couldn't get back in. Both the prosecutor and Scott Croswell were called to the back while Jeff Corcoran was nowhere to be found. Okay. As they come back and the judge is coming out, we see Corcoran coming out of the courtroom and a deputy unlocks it to let him out and then locks it back. And then he sees us standing in the hallway staring at him, and he pauses, and he didn't know where to go. You see him just kind of for like maybe 5-6 seconds. He's like walking around because he got caught. He thought we would be in the courtroom. We were all still standing outside, and he finally walks over to get into our courtroom. We thought maybe he was in the wrong courtroom at first until we realized it was locked. And as he's walking past Louisa and I, he goes, you guys are a pair, something along those lines. Nasty comment. The part that kills me is Jeff Corcoran's not counsel on this. Why would he be given special access to go to a courtroom?
So he had a letter. Didn't he have a notice of representation when he represented her at the beginning? Did he withdraw that?
I don't know. I mean, does she have? Because if she has 2 attorneys,
you could have 2 lawyers.
Correct, but the prosecutor's office has to be notified of that, of anybody that's counsel.
No, the court needs to be notified, and it's file a notice of representation.
But then
the question would be, we got to check that out. Was Jeff Corcoran still have an active notice of representation or do you withdraw?
Wouldn't he be sitting with
But
her?
by the way, how much do you think Scott Croswell charges an hour?
Well,
Oh,
I mean, based
a
on
lot.
he didn't know. He kept saying
450?
1924, the year he was born.
450? Probably charges 450 an hour.
Well, he charges a lot because he gets you off, right? I mean, the
That's
guy
right.
is amazing. The question is, it's so bizarre. Like he got Ubel off, if you remember, on this absolutely idiotic venue thing when the transaction that Ubel was involved with took place clearly in Clermont County and in the Home Depot parking lot, and his target for frauding people was Clermont Countyans. Okay, what Jerry McBride in that case ruled was effectively like if I did a scamming mail thing to Montgomery County, that I couldn't be charged in Montgomery County for doing that, which is completely wrong. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but it's completely fucking wrong. And so my point is, there's always these things that happen with Scott Croswell cases, like Jesse Kramick. Everybody lies. Stephanie Boyer lies. Nagel lies. They all lie in interviews. And who's the lawyer? Scott Croswell. Okay, Ubel gets off when the transaction took place in the Clermont County Home Depot parking lot on that it wasn't the right venue for the case to be in Clermont County. It's very interesting. This case, the prosecutor just happens to not call any of his eyewitnesses.
And Patricia Lambeck lied.
So if anybody out there has stories of any of these people, message, either my page, one of our pages or something. I don't have the chart with the email address on there, but it's just too many weird things. What is that? How do you say that? Like too many coincidences that happen in these cases all the time. But hey, Scott Croswell could be welcome to come on here with us and explain. Maybe he would just say, he might say that these people that work for prosecutors' offices are just the stupidest lawyers in the world. Maybe that's the story. Because it's either we have the stupidest lawyers in the world working in prosecutors' offices, or these cases get cooked in the back room. What else you guys got to say?
Maybe the new young attorneys that are coming out are just not, they're just not good, because I'm starting to find more young attorneys that just don't do their due diligence when it comes to going to court.
I don't disagree with that, Louisa, but if you're a prosecutor, the idea of calling an eyewitness to a physical assault, this is not, you could even go to a George Soros, woke, whatever, and you probably know that you're supposed to call the witness to the crime.
You don't have to be a prosecutor to know that. Everybody knows that. That is the key thing to a case to win, is to bring in the witness.
Yeah. So, okay.
I'm tired, guys. You know what?
I see some of the other comments here, but you guys all get it that are watching. We just were incensed about this and wanted to have a little quick thing tonight, but it hasn't been quick.
I'm good. I'm good. I honestly, we fired off the email. I think, Chris, the one thing that's important for everybody watching to understand is typically Chris is on his page videoing by himself a lot of the stuff that goes on, but most of this stuff is real, and people in this county need to wake up. And you cannot like Chris, like I didn't for the last 6 years, and sit on the other side and say, I want to keep my eyes closed and my ears closed because I don't like Chris. Chris says a cuss word, whatever. What? You can find 1,000 reasons to shut this stuff out because you don't like Chris.
I don't say the B word.
Right. But the point is, this stuff is real. It's actually happening. It's not conspiracy theory. It's actually happening. And we got 2 more people on this call that are witnessing this, that are standing behind what Chris is saying. Chris and I have been enemies for years. We're not best friends. We don't go drinking beer together. We don't do anything to we're doing this because
we only do heroin together. We don't.
Right. Except, so I'm not even admitting that on record. The point is, we're doing this for one reason, and we've joined sides for one reason, is because it's wrong, and it can't continue in this county. It's affecting people. It's affecting our party. And quite frankly, I'm disgusted by what I've seen over the last few years, my eyes being open to this nonsense. And sadly enough, I supported these elected officials. I feel like the biggest idiot supporting Fraley like I did, supporting Mark DeColby like I did, the biggest absolute idiot and used. So, I mean, wake up, all of you on Central Committee. Stop being you. Stop being, oh, it's Chris Hicks. It's Chris Hicks. It's like Trump derangement syndrome. I swear, it's just the same thing. Wake up and start calling this stuff out, because the more people that call it out, the more people that are going to listen. And that's the only way you can get things done in this world, is by volume of people. That's it.
I do think that the thing too, I want to say, like, first, this is, I think, a rigged thing where Trish Lambeck will get off when she should have got an assault. It would have been her first offense. I don't even know what, it's a misdemeanor or whatever. Okay. And that's probably not going to happen. Okay. And what I would say to Mark DeColby, great job. I'm not upset about that. Mark, this is going to do more damage than had it been a fair trial and she got slapped with a misdemeanor. Okay. Because people are opening their eyes to the crooked shit that goes on in our county government, in our courtrooms, that we have judges that go along with it, the visiting judge charade, the inability of people to stand up in law enforcement against this stuff, and enjoy that Trish Lambeck, was she worth it? Because what's going to happen is, what are we going to do? And people that, we're going to keep driving these things over and over again. Just last night, I talked about this Jay Clark, Mark DeColby picking the person to investigate him for crimes. Okay. This is absolutely crooked. And Mark, what are you going to do? Lock us up, Mark? Find a reason to lock us up, right? So why don't you J6 us, Mark? Being the good conservative that you are, why don't you J6 people that are pointing at you're corrupt? And I want to have one thing, and I'm going to make myself big, because I'm just super pissed about this. And I'm going to say it. I got to put myself through this. So now I'm big. Okay. Mark, and I know that people thought that you were different than your dad. And now tons of people in the system are unbelievably disappointed in you and say they thought you were different than your dad. And what do they say now? He's just like his dad, a crook.
Or worse.
So Mark DeColby's dad was a constantly in trouble lawyer for unethical behavior. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to say any names or any areas even, but there is a raft of people that Mark DeColby that are out there, Mark, that know that you are your dad. And rather than try to clean that up and quit doing this crooked shit, you just keep doing it. And I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you can win by J6 and all of us. Why don't you find all your political opponents? I think you try to do it with me. So why don't you find your political opponents and try to J6 them? And that'll make you, we'll all love you. Maybe you can get a job with the Soros team. All right. That's my last rant. Any other rants you guys have?
Yes. So people out there, my advice for you, having been in the court system for 4 years, and I'm quite glad, touch wood, that I'm out of it. My advice to you is, don't just go with the first attorney you pick up the phone and call. You go and interview attorneys, because there are good attorneys out there. You're just going to have to look for them. But be prepared to pay a shitload of money, because it's going to cost you a lot of money to have a damn good attorney. And when you find that damn good attorney, you better believe it that you need to be involved in the case, in the motions, in the hearings, in all the discussions that are happening on sidebar discussions with the judge.
And you're talking civil stuff, okay, where you have an attorney. You have to understand, when it's criminal stuff, you don't have an attorney. The state has an attorney, right, and you cannot trust them. And if it involves anybody on the other side that's connected all with anybody in the political system, assume you're going to get screwed and be up their ass, because the system is fundamentally corrupt. And all you judges out there, Nathan Little and everybody else, there's lots of people in our system that know that Mark DeColby's creating this, okay? And they're still protecting them. And at some point, this has got to give, because it's not good, even though I'm super upset about this, It's not good for our court system. It's not good for our county. And you judges and you law enforcement people, you know it's not good. And you know it's got to get fixed. And you know that the root of it right now, I think there's all kind of systemic issues, like that people will lie in CCSO interviews, but that the root cause right now is this political insider hackery stuff that right now Mark Jacoby's made himself the king of.
So, people out there, you need to know who you're voting for. Okay? You cannot continuously vote these people in because they rigged, they corrupt. This is such a big swamp. Get involved. This is the reason why the three of us got together and decided to do this podcast. We needed to let the people know what was going on. Don't stick your head in the sand. Even with our committee people, you know, there's a lot of people that think exactly the same way we do, but are too afraid to just step up and say something.
We need to wrap. I think I'll summarize what you just said is come in jaded.
Okay.
Dan Bongino rule. They all hate you.
Okay, Scott Croswell, you're speaking for me.
So they all okay.
Hey, Chris,
Phil, you get the last word if you have any word.
Chris, do you have the ability? I emailed you a picture. Do you have the ability to throw that picture up onto the screen real quick? It's Mark Jacoby's.
I gotta find it. Hold on, I can if I find it.
It's Mark Jacoby's response to you tonight.
Oh, you're giving him the middle finger.
Why you gotta ruin my?
I got a Trump match alert from Elon Musk.
Go Elon! South African buddies.
Okay, I got one with an attachment. Okay.
Yeah, can you throw that up?
I can't. Hold on. Let me see what it is. I do have. Okay.
This is Jacoby's response to your podcast tonight.
Yeah, this is this. Hold on. I got to hit the right buttons here. I'm not that smart sometimes. Okay, here we go.
It's the word of the day.
This is the Mark Jacoby.
It's the word of the day.
Fuck you, Clermont County. I'm going to J6 any of you that try to challenge me. I'm going to continue to get forum shops, special prosecutors, and I'm going to try to control the court system with my own handpicked team.
That's Mark's response to you, buddy.
And it's a disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace. And I'll tell you what, it's going to cause some, Soros-alike person to get elected someday, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, because people will get fed up. I have to talk to people now about the animal shelter stuff, where I'm resolute. There's no way I'm going to vote for these Democrat people, but there's people that are so frustrated that they're just effing. I'm going to vote for these people sight unseen. And that, ultimately that's the people being, not doing what they should do. But that's on the Clermont GOP. When you give people candidates and things that are so effed up that they're just like, F it, I'll take a chance on some loon, Democrat loon, then, that's saying the desperation you're creating. That's not effective, efficient governance. That's a mess. So, all right. Can we be done now?
We're done.
All right.
Call it a day.
Thank you. If Mark Jacoby has any new pictures of flipping people off that he'd like to share with us, we can have it. Okay. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a good night. Thank you for joining. And we'll fight another day. And I hope that they enjoy the victory of Patricia Lambeck got off, because we will use it to hammer, pointing out to the world the corruption of our Clermont County system. Thank you.
And Patricia, you a liar.
Bye.